The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest room Ho had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Lights floated in the air like small suns. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that showed moving images of stars and planets. Ho stood at the very back of the hall, near the massive doors. He was just a human engineer from the colony ship. His ship had broken down 3 weeks ago, and they were stuck on this space station while waiting for parts. He had come to the Great Hall only because his captain told him to. Captain Park Sung-ho wanted someone to watch the ceremony and report back. "Just observe," the captain had said. "Learn what you can about these aliens. We need friends out here." So Ho watched. The hall was filled with aliens of every kind. Some were tall and covered in scales. Some were short with 4 arms. Some floated in the air. Some had skin that changed colors. Ho had never seen so many different species in one place. He felt very small and very ordinary. At the front of the hall sat the Empress of the Dominion. She was old, but her eyes were sharp like knives. Her skin was pale purple, and golden lines ran across her face like beautiful scars. She wore a crown made of light itself. When she spoke, everyone listened. Beside her stood a younger female. This was Princess, the Empress's only daughter. She was tall and beautiful, with the same purple skin and golden lines. But there was something sad in her eyes. She looked at the crowd like someone watching a funeral. Ho did not understand why. The Empress raised her hand, and the entire hall went silent. Even the floating lights seemed to stop moving. "I have ruled the Dominion for 200 years, the Empress said. Her voice filled every corner of the massive hall. "I have conquered enemies. I have built empires. I have brought 17 star systems under my protection, but I am old now. My time grows short." She looked at her daughter, and for a moment the powerful ruler looked like any other worried mother. "My daughter must have children. The royal bloodline must continue. But as you all know, our bloodline carries a curse. Any male who wishes to bond with the princess must survive the trial of flames." Whispers spread through the crowd. Ho heard the aliens near him talking in low voices. 47 have tried," one alien said. "All dead." "The trial burns them from the inside," another said. "No species can survive it. Only a fool would volunteer now." Ho listened carefully. He did not know what the trial of flames was, but it sounded dangerous, very dangerous. The Empress continued speaking. "I have invited the strongest warriors from every corner of the galaxy. I see the mighty standing here. Your warriors can crush stone with their bare hands. I see the whose minds can solve any puzzle. I see the who have never lost a war in 10,000 years." She paused and looked across the crowd. Her eyes were desperate but proud. "Is there no one courageous enough to give me strong?" The silence that followed was heavy. It pressed down on everyone like a weight. Ho watched the aliens around him. The warriors, huge creatures covered in gray armor-like skin, looked at the floor. The diplomats, thin beings with large heads, actually stepped backward. The commanders, fierce reptiles with sharp teeth, turned their faces away. No one moved forward. The princess closed her eyes. Ho saw her shoulders drop just a little. She had expected this. She had probably expected this her whole life. Everyone was afraid of her. Everyone would always be afraid of her. Something stirred in Ho's chest. It was not bravery. It was not love at first sight. It was simpler than that. He had grown up in a small village on Earth before joining the colony mission. His grandmother had taught him one thing above all else. "When someone needs help," she always said, "and everyone looks away, you step forward. That is what makes us human." The Empress asked her question again, her voice cracking slightly. "Is there truly no one?" Before Ho knew what he was doing, his feet were moving. He walked past the warriors. He walked past the diplomats. He walked past species whose names he did not even know. The crowd parted around him, not out of respect but out of confusion. Who was this small creature? What species was he? Why was he walking forward when even the mightiest warriors refused? Ho stopped at the base of the throne. He was breathing fast. His heart was pounding. Every instinct told him to turn around and run, but his grandmother's voice was louder than his fear. He bowed his head respectfully. "I will try," he said. The words were simple. His voice was not loud, but in that silent hall everyone heard him. The Empress stared at him like he had grown a second head. What are you?" "I am human," Ho said. "My name is Ho. I am an engineer from the ship." "Human?" The Empress turned to one of her advisors. "I do not know this species." The advisor, a creature with too many eyes, checked a glowing tablet. "Humans, your majesty, a young species from a small planet called Earth. They have only been traveling between stars for about 300 years. They are considered unremarkable, average strength, average intelligence, short." "Unremarkable," the Empress repeated. She looked at Ho with new eyes. "And yet you step forward when the do not." Ho did not know how to answer. "You asked if anyone was courageous enough. I do not know if I am courageous, but I am willing to try." The hall exploded with noise. Some aliens laughed, some shouted in anger, some simply stared in disbelief. Princess was looking at him now. Her sad eyes showed something new, not hope exactly, more like curiosity, like she was seeing a strange animal that did not behave as expected. She stepped forward and raised her hand. The noise stopped instantly. "Mother," she said, "I wish to speak with this human, alone." The Empress nodded slowly. "Very well, take him to the garden. Let him understand what he has volunteered for. Perhaps he will change his mind like the others." But as the guards led Ho away, he looked back once at the princess. She was still watching him, and in her eyes he saw the loneliest person he had ever seen. He thought of his sister waiting on the broken ship. He thought of Captain Park and the crew. He thought of Earth so far away. Then he thought of the princess, standing alone beside her mother, waiting for a partner who would never come because everyone was too afraid. He kept walking forward. The garden was outside the great hall, under a dome of clear crystal. Strange plants grew everywhere, glowing with soft light. 2 moons hung in the sky above the dome, one red and one blue. Princess dismissed the guards and stood facing Ho. Up close, she was even more beautiful, but up close, she also looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from carrying heavy burdens for too long. "Do you know what the Trial of Flames is?" she asked. "No," Ho admitted. "I heard people say it was dangerous, that people have died." "Not people," said. "Suitors, 47 males from 23 different species. They all died. Do you understand? Every single one of them burned from the inside out. The strongest warriors in the galaxy, the minds, all dead because they tried to bond with me." She walked closer to him. Her purple eyes searched his face. "My bloodline carries ancient bioenergy. When we bond with a partner, our energy tries to merge with theirs. If their body cannot accept it, the energy destroys them. It happens within hours. It is extremely painful. There is no cure." Ho felt cold. He finally understood why everyone had been afraid. This was not a simple challenge. This was almost certain death. "Why did you volunteer?" asked. "You did not even know what you were agreeing to." Ho thought for a moment. "Your mother asked a question. No one answered. Where I come from, we believe that some questions deserve an answer, even if the answer is hard." Laughed, but there was no happiness in the sound. "That is either very brave or very stupid." "My people have always been a little of both," Ho said. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. 2 strangers from opposite ends of the galaxy. One was a princess cursed with power that killed. The other was an ordinary engineer from an ordinary planet. "You can still leave," said softly. "I will tell my mother you changed your mind. No one will blame you." Ho looked at her. He saw the loneliness. He saw the guilt. He saw someone who had spent her entire life watching people die because of her or watching people run away from her. "No," he said. "I stepped forward, I will not step back." His eyes widened. Something changed in her expression. It was small, but it was there. A tiny crack in the wall she had built around herself. "Then you are a fool," she said. "Maybe," Ho agreed, "but I am a fool who keeps his word." That night Ho returned to the. His sister was waiting for him at the airlock. The moment she saw his face, she knew something had happened. "What did you do?" she asked. Ho told her everything. When he finished, was crying and hitting his chest with her fists. "You idiot," she shouted. "You absolute idiot. You volunteered to die for some alien princess you just met." "I volunteered to try," Ho said. "There is a difference." "There is no difference. 47 others tried. They are all dead." Captain Park appeared behind them. His face was serious. "Is it true? You volunteered for the trial?" "Yes, Captain." The captain was silent for a long time. Then he put his hand on Ho's shoulder. "I should tell you that you made a mistake. I should order you to withdraw. But I have known you for 5 years, Ho. You do not make decisions without reason. Why did you really do it?" Ho thought about the question. He thought about the princess's lonely eyes. He thought about his grandmother's words. He thought about what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of stronger, smarter, older species. "Because someone had to," he said finally. "Because everyone else stepped back, and because maybe, just maybe, being human is enough." The captain nodded slowly. "Then we will support you. Whatever happens, you are still our crew. You are still family." Was still crying. "I hate you," she said. "I hate you so much." Ho hugged his sister. "I know I love you too." Outside the ship, the 2 moons hung in the alien sky. Somewhere in the station, a princess was probably lying awake, wondering if this strange human would really go through with it. He would. Because that was what humans did. They stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. They faced impossible odds with nothing but stubbornness and hope. And sometimes, against all logic, they won. 3 days passed after Ho volunteered. The news spread across the station like fire. A human had stepped forward. A nobody from a nothing species had agreed to attempt the trial of flames. Some aliens laughed at him. They made jokes in the corridors. "The human wants to burn," they said. "Let him burn, it will be entertaining." Others watched him with strange expressions. Not respect exactly. More like the way someone watches a small animal walking toward a cliff. They knew what was coming. They almost felt sorry for him. Ho ignored them all. He spent his days learning everything he could about thee and their trial. The station's library was huge, and he read until his eyes hurt. They were an ancient species. They had ruled their part of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their bodies contained bioenergy, a kind of living power that flowed through their blood. This energy made them strong and long-lived, could live for 300 or 400 years. But this gift came with a price. When bonded with a partner from another species, their bioenergy tried to enter the partner's body. If the partner's cells could accept the energy, both would become stronger. The bond would be permanent and powerful. If the cells rejected the energy, the partner would burn from the inside out. Death was certain and painful. The royal bloodline had the strongest bioenergy of all. Princess energy was so powerful that no species had ever survived bonding with her. Not even other from lesser bloodlines could handle it. She was trapped. Her own power had become her prison. Ho read about the 47 suitors who had tried before him. Some were great warriors. Some were brilliant scientists who thought they could find a way to survive. Some were desperate princes who needed political alliances. All of them had failed. All of them had died screaming as golden fire consumed them from within. The more Ho read, the more he understood why everyone in the Great Hall had stayed silent. This was not courage. This was suicide. And yet he did not withdraw. On the 4th day, Princess came to see him. Ho was sitting in the station's observation deck, looking at the stars. He heard her footsteps behind him and turned. She was wearing simple clothes today, not the royal robes from before. Without all the ceremony, she looked younger, more real. "You are still here," she said. "Where else would I go?" Sat down beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. "I have been thinking about you," she finally said. "I do not understand you. Every other suitor came to me full of confidence. They believed they were special. They believed they would succeed where others failed. They were wrong, of course, but at least I understood their thinking." She looked at him with those purple eyes. "You are different. You do not seem confident. You do not seem special. You seem ordinary, and yet you stay. Why?" Ho thought about the question. It was a good question. He was not sure he had a good answer. "On my planet," he said slowly, "there is an old story. A long time ago there was a great flood. The waters rose higher and higher. Everyone was scared. They climbed to the top of a mountain, but the water kept coming." He paused, remembering how his grandmother used to tell this story. One man started placing stones in the water, small stones one by one. People laughed at him. "You cannot stop a flood with small stones," they said, but the man kept placing stones. He did not stop. He did not give up. And in the end, the flood passed. The man died, but the stones remained, and people remembered him. Frowned, "That is a sad story. The man died." "Yes, but he did not give up. That is what we remember, not whether he won or lost, but that he tried." "Humans are strange," said. "Very strange," Ho agreed. "We come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, droughts, floods, diseases. We survived all of it, not because we were the strongest but because we never stopped trying." Was quiet for a long time. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm, warmer than human skin. Ho could feel a faint vibration under her touch, like electricity moving through her veins. This was the bioenergy. Even this small contact was sharing a tiny amount of it with him. "I have watched 47 males die because of me," said. Her voice was very soft now. "Each time I hoped it would be different. Each time I watched them burn. Do you know what that does to a person?" Ho squeezed her hand gently. "No, I cannot imagine." "It makes you hard," she said. "It makes you build walls. I stopped caring about suitors years ago. I stopped hopping. I told myself that I would simply never bond with anyone. The bloodline would end with me, and maybe that would be a mercy for the galaxy." Tears were forming in her eyes. Ho realized that she had probably never told anyone this before. "Then you walked forward," she continued. "This strange little human from a species no one knows. You did not come to me with plans or confidence. You came because my mother asked a question and no one answered. That is the strangest reason anyone has ever given." "Is it a bad reason?" Almost smiled. "I do not know, but it is honest, and honesty is rare in my world." They sat together for a long time, holding hands, watching the stars. Ho knew he should be scared. In a few days he would probably be dead. But somehow, sitting here with this lonely princess, he felt at peace. The next day, the Empress summoned him to the throne room. Looked older than before. The stress of the situation was showing on her face. She sat on her throne with the weight of 17 star systems pressing down on her. "Human," she said, "I have reviewed our records on your species. You are not impressive. Your bodies are weak compared to most species. Your minds are average. You have no natural weapons, no special abilities. Why do you think you can succeed where the failed? Ho bowed his head respectfully. "I do not think I will succeed, Your Majesty. I only promise to try." "That is not good enough," said. "I need my daughter to have children. I need the bloodline to continue. I cannot waste time on experiments that will certainly fail." "With respect," Ho said, "I am already here. The trial costs you nothing except a few days of waiting, and there is something your records might not show about humans." The Empress raised an eyebrow. "What is that?" "We adapt. Other species are specialized. They are built for strength. They are built for thinking, but humans are built for nothing specific. This means we can adjust to anything. When our world got cold, we did not die. We learned to make fire. When food became scarce, we did not die. We learned to farm. When diseases came, we did not die. We changed and we survived." He looked directly at the Empress. "Maybe my body will reject the bioenergy and I will burn like the others. But maybe, just maybe, my body will adapt. Humans have been adapting for millions of years. It is what we do." Studied him for a long moment. Her sharp eyes seemed to see through him, judging him, measuring him. "You truly believe this?" "No," Ho admitted, "but I hope. Hope is also something humans are good at." The Empress actually laughed. It was a dry, tired sound, but it was real. "You are either very wise or very foolish. I have not decided which." She waved her hand. "The trial will begin in 3 days. Prepare yourself however you wish. And human, if you somehow survive, I will owe you a debt greater than any treasure in my empire." Ho bowed and left the throne room. Outside, his sister was waiting. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face was determined. "I heard what you said to the Empress," said, "about humans adapting." "You were listening." "Of course I was listening. You are my stupid brother. I am not going to let you face this alone." She grabbed his arm and started pulling him down the corridor. "Come on. If you are going to try this insane thing, we are going to prepare properly." "Prepare how?" His eyes had a fierce light in them. "The station has medical facilities, advanced alien technology. We are going to study exactly what the bioenergy does to a body. We are going to look at the records of every suitor who failed, and we are going to find any advantage we can." "You are a biologist, not a doctor." "I am a biologist who is not going to watch her brother burn to death without doing everything possible to prevent it." She pushed him into a transport pod. "Now shut up and let me help you." They spent the next 3 days in the medical wing, studied the bioenergy with obsessive focus. She examined the records of failed suitors. She analyzed their cellular breakdown. She ran simulations on human biology. Captain Park brought food and supplies. Other crew members from the came to offer support. Word had spread among the humans on the station. They all wanted to help in any way they could. On the second night came to visit. She found Ho and surrounded by medical screens, arguing about cell membrane permeability. "What is happening here?" asked. Looked up with tired eyes. "We are trying to save my brother's life, Your Highness." Looked at the screens, at the data, at the simulations. Something changed in her expression. No one had ever done this before. Every other suitor had simply trusted their natural abilities. No one had tried to actually understand the trial scientifically. "Can I help?" asked quietly. And Ho both stared at her. "I know more about bioenergy than anyone," continued. "I have lived with it my entire life. I know how it feels, how it moves, how it behaves. Perhaps that knowledge can help." For the first time smiled at the princess. "Then sit down, Your Highness. We have a lot of work to do." The 3 of them worked through the night, explained things that were not in any record. She described how the energy responded to emotions, how it could be partially controlled with concentration, how it was stronger at certain times than others. Took notes frantically. Ho listened and tried to understand. By morning they had a plan. It was not a guarantee, it was barely even a hope, but it was something. "The energy surge is strongest at the beginning of the trial," explained. "If your body can survive the first 3 hours, the energy will stabilize. After that, either your cells will accept it or they will not. But those first 3 hours are the key." "How do I survive the first 3 hours?" Looked at, the princess took a deep breath. "I will try to control my energy," said. I have never been able to do it before, but I will try. I will release it slowly instead of all at once. It will be painful for me, like holding back a river with my hands, but it might give your body time to adapt. Ho looked at her. You would do that for me. His purple eyes met his. You stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. The least I can do is step forward with you. Outside the medical wing, the station continued its normal activities. Aliens walked by without knowing that inside, a human, his sister, and a princess were trying to break 10,000 years of history. They might fail, they probably would fail. But they were going to try anyway. Because that was what humans did. And now, maybe that was what could do too. The night of the trial arrived. 3 moons hung in the sky above Nexus Prime. Red, blue, and silver, they formed a perfect triangle over the station's central temple. According to tradition, this alignment happened only once every 50 years. It was considered the most powerful time for bonding ceremonies. It was also the most dangerous. Ho stood in the preparation chamber, dressed in simple white robes. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. He had not slept in 2 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw images of fire and burning. Was with him. She checked his vital signs one more time with a small medical device she had borrowed from the station's clinic. Your heart rate is elevated, she said. Your stress hormones are high. This is not ideal. I am about to attempt something that has killed 47 people, Ho said. I think elevated stress is reasonable. Did not smile. Her eyes were wet, but she was holding herself together. She was the strongest person Ho knew. Listen to me, she said. When the energy enters your body, do not fight it. I know your instinct will be to resist. Every cell in your body will scream at you to push back. But if you fight it, you will lose. The energy is stronger than you. Then what do I do? Accept it, welcome it. Let it flow through you like water through a net. Your cells need time to adapt. Give them that time by not wasting energy on resistance. Ho nodded. Water through a net, I understand. Grabbed his hands tightly. You are my little brother. You have been annoying me since the day you were born. I am not ready to lose you, so you better survive this. Do you hear me? I hear you. She hugged him hard. Then she stepped back, wiping her eyes quickly so no one would see her crying. Captain Park entered the chamber. His face was serious but calm. He had commanded ships through asteroid storms and pirate attacks. He knew how to stay composed in crisis. The Empress is waiting, he said. They are ready to begin. Ho took a deep breath. Then let us not keep them waiting. The temple was massive. Pillars of white stone reached up toward a ceiling painted with stars. Thousands of observers filled the gallery seats, aliens from every corner of the galaxy who had come to watch the trial. Some came out of curiosity. Some came hopping to see a miracle. Most came expecting to see a human die. At the center of the temple floor was a circle made of golden light. Ancient symbols covered the floor inside the circle, glowing softly with power. This was where the trial would happen. Empress sat on a high throne overlooking the circle. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the armrests tightly. Whatever happened tonight, it would change everything. Princess stood at the edge of the golden circle. She wore ceremonial robes of deep purple and silver. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style decorated with tiny jewels. She looked like a goddess. She also looked terrified. When she saw Ho approaching, something in her eyes softened. She had spent months preparing herself for another failure. She had built her walls higher than ever, expecting another suitor to burn because of her. But Ho was not like the others. He walked toward her with no arrogance, no false confidence. He was scared and he did not hide it, but he kept walking anyway. That simple act of honest courage meant more to her than all the bold words from previous suitors combined. The high priest stepped forward. He was ancient even by standards. His golden lines had faded to pale yellow with age. His voice, however, was still strong. "We gather tonight to witness the trial of flames," he announced. "The human Ho has volunteered to bond with Princess of the royal bloodline. May the ancestors watch over this ceremony." He turned to Ho. "Human, do you enter this trial of your own free will?" "I do." "Do you understand that failure means death?" "I do." "Do you have any final words before we begin?" Ho looked at. He looked at in the crowd, her face pale with worry. He looked at Captain Park and the crew of the standing together in the gallery. "I am just an engineer from a small planet," he said. "I am not a warrior or a scientist or a prince, but where I come from, we believe that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, not because we are special, but because we choose to try." He stepped into the golden circle. "I choose to try." The crowd was silent. Even the aliens who had come to mock him were watching with wide eyes. Stepped into the circle to face him. They were close now, only an arm's length apart. He could see the fear in her eyes. He could also see something else. Hope, tiny and fragile, but there. "I will try to control the energy," she whispered. "I will release it as slowly as I can, but Ho, if it becomes too much, if you start to burn—" "I will not run," he said. "Whatever happens, I will not run." His eyes filled with tears. "Why? Why would you die for someone you barely know?" Ho reached out and took her hand. "Because no one should have to stand alone, and you have stood alone for too long." The high priest raised his hands. "Let the trial begin." The symbols on the floor began to glow brighter. The air itself seemed to vibrate with ancient power. Every in the temple could feel the bioenergy awakening, responding to the ceremony. Closed her eyes and focused. She had never tried to control her energy before. It had always exploded out of her like a flood. But tonight, for this strange human who refused to abandon her, she would try. She would be his shield, even if it broke her. The energy began to flow from her body. It moved through her hands into Ho's. Immediately he felt heat, not warm, hot, like touching the surface of a sun. His first instinct was to pull away. Every nerve in his body screamed danger, but he remembered words: water through a net, do not fight, accept. He breathed slowly and let the energy in. It was like swallowing fire. The heat spread through his arms into his chest, toward his heart. His skin began to glow faintly with golden light. The observers gasped. This was the beginning. This was when suitors usually started to burn. His face was tight with concentration. Sweat formed on her forehead. Holding back the energy was like trying to stop a river with her bare hands. The pressure was immense. Every part of her wanted to let go, to release the flood and end the strain. But she looked at Ho's face, and she held on. Minutes passed. The glow under Ho's skin grew brighter. He could feel his cells reacting to the foreign energy. Some were dying. He could feel them burning away, but others were changing, adapting, learning to accept the energy instead of fighting it. This was what made humans different. Not strength, not intelligence, adaptability, the ability to change, to evolve, to survive in conditions that should kill them. His ancestors had walked across frozen continents. They had survived ice ages with nothing but fire and animal skins. They had beaten diseases that wiped out other species. Generation after generation, humans had faced impossible odds and somehow found a way through. Ho called on that inheritance now. His body was burning, but it was also rebuilding. Cells died and new cells grew to replace them. The energy that destroyed also created. It was a race between destruction and adaptation was slowly winning. The first hour passed. Ho was still alive. The crowd began to whisper. The second hour passed. His skin was glowing bright gold now. Veins of light traced patterns under his flesh. He looked like a living star, but he was still standing, still breathing. was shaking with effort. She had never held her energy back this long. It felt like every muscle in her body was on fire, but Ho was still alive. She could not stop now. The third hour approached. This was the critical point. This was where every other suitor had failed. The energy buildup became too much, and they had exploded from within. Ho felt the pressure building. It was like a bomb inside his chest, waiting to go off. His vision blurred. His legs weakened. He fell to his knees, but he did not let go of his hands. "I am here," he gasped. "I am still here." Opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her face. "I cannot hold it much longer. Ho, I am sorry, I am so sorry." "Then let go," he said. "What?" "Let go, I am ready." It was insane. It was suicide, but saw something in his eyes that made her believe, not confidence, just certainty. He was certain that whatever happened, it was right. She stopped holding back. The energy flooded out of her like a tsunami. It crashed into Ho with the force of a supernova. His entire body blazed with golden light. He screamed, the first sound he had made during the entire trial. The observers covered their eyes. Some looked away, not wanting to see another suitor burn, screamed his name from the gallery. But Ho did not burn. His body absorbed the energy. His cells, having had 3 hours to adapt, finally learned how to incorporate the foreign power. The light did not consume him. Instead, it became part of him. It flowed through his veins like blood, merged with his DNA like it had always belonged there. Golden lines appeared under his skin, just like lines. His brown eyes gained flecks of violet. His body, which had always been ordinary, became something new, something that had never existed before in the history of the galaxy. A human hybrid. When the light finally faded, Ho was still standing, barely. His legs were shaking. His whole body felt like it had been torn apart and rebuilt, but he was alive. "Impossible," the high priest whispered. Empress rose from her throne. Her face showed pure shock. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some shouted in disbelief, some sat in stunned silence. But Ho was not looking at any of them. He was looking at. She was crying openly now. She had never seen a suitor survive. She had never imagined it was possible. For decades she had believed she was cursed, that anyone who tried to love her would die. "You survived," she whispered. "You actually survived." Ho smiled weakly. "I told you, I was not going to run." His legs finally gave out. He collapsed but caught him before he hit the ground. She held him in her arms, this strange human who had done the impossible. Was running across the temple floor, pushing past guards and priests. She dropped to her knees beside her brother and checked his vital signs. "He is alive," she said, her voice breaking. "He is alive. His cells have fully integrated the bioenergy. It is incredible. It should not be possible, but it is." Captain Park reached them next. He looked at Ho's glowing skin, at the golden lines under his flesh, and shook his head in amazement. "You did it," the captain said. "You actually did it." Ho opened his eyes. They were different now. Violet light danced in them alongside the human brown. "I had help," he said. He looked then at. "I could not have done it without both of you." Empress approached. The most powerful ruler in 17 star systems stood before a collapsed human engineer, and she bowed her head. "You have done what no one else could," she said. "From this day forward you are not just human. You are family." She turned to her daughter. "You finally have what you have always deserved. A partner who will not leave you. A future that is not empty." Looked down at Ho, who was barely conscious but still smiling. "Yes, mother," she said, "I finally do." Outside the temple, word was spreading across the station, across the system, across the galaxy. A human had survived the trial of flames. Everything was about to change. 2 weeks after the trial, Ho was still getting used to his new body. The golden lines under his skin glowed faintly in the dark. His eyes had changed color permanently, brown mixed with violet like two galaxies combining. His body temperature ran higher than normal now, and he could feel the bioenergy moving through him like a second heartbeat. He spent most of his time in the Royal Medical Wing, where doctors from 12 different species came to study him. They took blood samples and ran tests. They scanned his cells and analyzed his DNA. They asked him hundreds of questions. How does the energy feel? Like warm electricity, like having sunshine inside my veins. Do you have any new abilities? I can see slightly further into the ultraviolet spectrum, and I heal faster than before. A cut that would take days to heal now closes in hours. Have you experienced any negative effects? I get hungry more often. The energy seems to burn through food quickly, and sometimes I feel emotions that are not mine. I think I can sense feelings when she is nearby. The doctors wrote everything down. This was unprecedented. In 10,000 years of history, no foreign species had ever successfully bonded with the royal bloodline. Ho was the first. And news of this success spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Messages arrived daily from every corner of known space. Some were congratulations from allied worlds. Some were requests for information from scientific organizations. Some were threats from groups who saw humans as a rising danger. But the most significant reactions came from other species who had once ignored humanity. The ambassador, a massive creature covered in gray armor skin, requested a formal meeting with Ho. He arrived with a gift, a warrior's blade made of compressed starlight. When you stepped forward in the great hall, the ambassador said, I thought you were a fool. My people value strength above all else. We saw humans as weak, fragile, not worth our attention. He placed the blade in Ho's hands. I was wrong. Strength is not just about muscles and weapons. It is about the will to stand when others kneel. You have shown a strength my warriors do not possess. The respect this. Similar visits came from other species. The diplomats, who prided themselves on their intelligence, admitted they had underestimated human adaptability. The commanders, fierce warriors who had never lost a war, sent a message acknowledging Ho as an equal. Humanity, which had been a minor footnote in galactic politics, suddenly became the subject of intense interest. But not everyone celebrated. Lord of House watched the news feeds from his private chambers with growing anger. He was a noble, pure-blooded, whose family had served the throne for generations. He had been among those who refused to attempt the trial, knowing the risk to his life. Now a human, a creature from a species barely worth mentioning, had succeeded where all others had failed. This is an insult, said to his advisors. The royal bloodline will be polluted with alien blood. Any children from this union will be half-breeds, mongrels. This cannot be allowed. His chief advisor, a thin-named, nodded carefully. My lord speaks truth. Many in the old houses share these concerns. The Empress has been too desperate for an heir. She has made a mistake that will damage our empire. A mistake that must be corrected, said. Before the formal wedding ceremony, before this human can produce offspring. What do you suggest, my lord? Smiled coldly. The human survived the trial, impressive, but can he survive an assassination? Humans are still fragile creatures. A blade in the right place, poison in his food, an accident during travel. There are many ways for a human to die. And if he dies, the princess will be unbonded again. Exactly, and perhaps then she will make a more appropriate choice. The conspiracy began in shadows. Lord gathered allies among the old houses, nobles who feared change and resented the human. They made plans. They gathered resources. They waited for the right moment. Meanwhile, Ho knew nothing of this danger. He spent his days learning about culture, about the empire he was now part of, about the responsibilities that came with his new position. He spent his evenings with They walked through the station's gardens, talking for hours. She told him about her childhood, about the loneliness of being a princess that everyone feared. He told her about Earth, about his grandmother's stories, about the village where he grew up. "Your planet sounds beautiful," said one evening. "Green plants, blue water, white clouds, so different from Prime." "It is home," Ho said simply. "Even out here among the stars, I carry it with me." "Do you miss it?" "Sometimes I miss the smell of rain on grass, the sound of birds in the morning, the way the sky turns orange at sunset," he smiled. "But I made a choice. I stepped forward. I do not regret it." Took his hand. The contact still sent small sparks of bioenergy between them. It always would. They were bonded now, connected on a level that went deeper than words. "I never thought I would have this," she said quietly. "A partner, someone to share my life with. I had accepted that I would always be alone." "You will never be alone again," Ho promised. "No matter what happens, I will be here." She leaned her head on his shoulder. Above them, the three moons traced their paths across the sky. Neither of them knew that assassins were already planning their move. The Festival of Twin Suns was one of the largest celebrations in the Dominion. It marked the anniversary of an ancient victory, when the first Empress had united the warring clans under one banner. The entire station transformed for the event. Streets were decorated with lights. Music played from every corner. Millions of beings came from across the galaxy to participate. It was also the perfect cover for an assassination. Ho and attended the main celebration in the Grand Plaza. They walked among the crowds, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Guards surrounded them, but in the chaos of the festival, it was impossible to watch everyone. Lord's assassins moved through the crowd like ghosts. There were 6 of them, all former military, all loyal to the old houses. They wore common clothes and carried hidden weapons. Their target was simple: kill the human, make it look like an accident. The moment came when Ho stepped away to speak with Captain Park, who had come to the festival with the crew of the... In the press of bodies, he was suddenly isolated, separated from his guards. The first assassin struck from behind. Ho felt the knife before he saw it. His new reflexes, enhanced by the bioenergy, made him turn just in time. The blade that would have severed his spine instead cut across his shoulder. Blood sprayed, red mixed with golden light. "Contact," he shouted, the old military training from his colony ship days taking over. "I need help here." But the crowd was too thick. His guards could not reach him. More assassins closed in, blades gleaming. Ho had no weapon. He had no combat training beyond basic self-defense. He was an engineer, not a warrior. But he was also human. The second assassin attacked with a thrust to his chest. Ho deflected it with his forearm, feeling the blade slice through flesh and muscle. Pain exploded through him. Blood flowed, but he did not stop. He grabbed the assassin's arm and twisted. The technique was crude, something he had learned in a bar fight years ago. But it worked. The assassin's wrist snapped and he screamed. The third and fourth assassins attacked together. Ho took a cut to his leg and another to his side. He was bleeding from multiple wounds now. His vision was starting to blur. But humans had evolved as persistence hunters. Their bodies could take incredible damage and keep functioning. Adrenaline flooded his system. Pain became distant. All that mattered was survival. He fought like an animal. He bit, scratched, punched, kicked. He used his enemies' weapons against them when he could grab them. He took wounds that would have killed most species, and he kept fighting. The fifth assassin hesitated. He had expected an easy kill. Instead, this human was still standing, still fighting, covered in blood but refusing to fall. That hesitation cost him. Ho slammed a palm into his face, breaking his nose and stunning him. A moment later, the assassin was on the ground, unconscious. The sixth assassin was more careful. He circled Ho, looking for an opening. You should have died easily, human. Instead, you make us work for it. I respect that, but you are still going to die. Ho was barely standing. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. His legs were shaking. Every breath hurt. Then finish it, he said through gritted teeth. But I warn you, even if you kill me, I will take you with me. The assassin lunged. Ho did not try to dodge. He did not have the strength. Instead, he stepped forward into the blade. It pierced his side, a potentially fatal wound. But his forward movement carried him inside the assassin's guard. He grabbed the assassin's head with both hands and slammed his forehead into the alien's face. Once, twice, 3 times, bones cracked. The assassin collapsed. Ho fell to his knees. He was dying, he knew it. Too much blood loss, too much damage. His vision was going dark. But he had won. When the guards finally reached him, they found him kneeling in a circle of fallen assassins. 4 unconscious, 2 dead. A human, the species they had called weak, had defeated 6 trained killers. "Medical team," someone shouted. "Get a medical team now." Pushed through the crowd. When she saw Ho, covered in blood, barely conscious, she screamed. She fell beside him and grabbed his hands. "No, no, no. Ho, stay with me, stay with me." He looked up at her. His eyes were dimming, but he smiled. "I told you," he whispered, "I do not run." Then everything went black. Ho woke in the medical wing. He did not know how much time had passed. His body was wrapped in healing bandages, and machines beeped around him. Was asleep in a chair beside his bed. Her face was pale and drawn, like she had not rested in days. He tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. He made a small sound instead. His eyes snapped open. When she saw him awake, she burst into tears. "You idiot," she said, her voice breaking. "You absolute idiot, you almost died again." "Did I win?" he managed to croak. Laughed through her tears. "Yes, you won. You killed 2 assassins and knocked out 4 others. The station is talking about nothing else. The human who fought 6 warriors and survived." She poured him some water and helped him drink. "They caught Lord," she continued. "The guards traced the assassins back to him. He is in prison now, along with everyone who helped him. The Empress is furious. She is talking about executing everyone involved." Ho nodded weakly. Then a more important question came to mind. "She is fine. Scared out of her mind, but fine. She has not left the medical wing since you were brought in. They finally convinced her to get some rest about an hour ago." As if summoned by her name, the door opened. Stood there, her eyes red from crying, her hair disheveled. When she saw Ho awake, she crossed the room in 3 steps and fell beside his bed. "You are alive," she said, touching his face like she could not believe it. "You are really alive." "I promised," he said. "I promised I would not leave you." She kissed him then, gently, carefully, mindful of his wounds. It was their first real kiss. It tasted like tears and relief and something that might have been love. "The Empress wants to see you when you are recovered," said. "She wants to name you champion of the Dominion, the highest honor anyone can receive." "I am just an engineer." "You were just an engineer," corrected. "Now you are the man who survived the trial of flames and defeated 6 assassins alone. You are a legend, Ho, whether you like it or not." He closed his eyes. He was too tired to argue. But somewhere in his exhausted mind, he thought about what this meant, not for him personally, but for humanity. A human had done the impossible, twice. The galaxy would remember. And maybe, just maybe, that would change things for his people. He fell asleep with his hand in his, dreaming of a future he had never dared to imagine. Recovery took 3 weeks. The medical technology was advanced, but Ho's wounds had been severe. Multiple stab wounds, deep cuts, significant blood loss. A normal human would have died, but Ho was not normal anymore. The bioenergy in his blood accelerated his healing. What should have taken months took only weeks. During his recovery, The galaxy changed around him. News channels across known space covered his story obsessively. The human who survived the trial of flames. The human who killed 2 assassins with his bare hands. The human who refused to die. Every broadcast, every article, every discussion came back to the same question. What else were humans capable of? Species that had ignored humanity for centuries suddenly wanted to know more. Scientists requested permission to study human biology. Diplomats requested meetings with human representatives. Merchants wanted to trade with human colonies. Earth's government, a distant body that barely mattered in galactic politics, suddenly found itself receiving invitations to major summits. Human ambassadors, who used to wait in the back of every room, were now being seated at important tables. All because one engineer had stepped forward when no one else would. Captain Park visited Ho daily. He brought news from the which had finally been repaired and was ready to leave the station. "You have caused quite a stir," the captain said, sitting beside Ho's medical bed. "Our government back on Earth does not know what to do. They keep sending messages asking for details about your situation. Are you still human? Are you now? Do you represent humanity or the Dominion?" "I am still human," Ho said. "I will always be human. The bioenergy changed my body, but it did not change who I am." "That is not what they are worried about. They are worried about politics. If you become part of the royal family, you could influence decisions that affect human colonies. You could help us, or you could hurt us." Ho understood. He had never thought much about politics before. He was an engineer. He fixed machines and solved problems. But now, whether he liked it or not, he was a political figure. "I will not forget where I came from," he said carefully. "Whatever I become, I will remember that I am human, and I will try to help my people when I can." Captain Park nodded. "That is all anyone can ask. Now rest. You have a wedding to prepare for." The wedding date was set for the Festival of Stars, 2 months away. It would be the largest ceremony in history. Representatives from every species in the Dominion would attend. Leaders from outside the Dominion requested invitations. Even species that were usually hostile sent messages asking to observe. Everyone wanted to see the human who had changed everything. Was appointed as the official human ambassador to the Dominion. It was a new position, created specifically because of Ho's situation. She moved into quarters on the station and began learning diplomatic protocols. "This is your fault," she told Ho during one visit. "I was a biologist. I wanted to study alien plant life. Now I have to attend formal dinners and memorize titles and remember which fork to use for which course." "You are the person I know," Ho said. "You will be excellent." "I know I will be excellent. That is not the point. The point is that you dragged me into politics." She paused, then smiled. "But thank you for not dying. It would have been very inconvenient for my new career." Meanwhile, Empress summoned Ho to private audience. The throne room was empty except for the Empress herself. No guards, no advisors, no observers, just the two of them. "Sit," said, pointing to a chair beside her throne. "We need to talk, not as Empress and subject, as family." Ho sat. He still found it strange to think of the most powerful being in 17 star systems as family. "You have surprised me," said. "When you first stepped forward in the Great Hall, I thought you were either very brave or very foolish. Now I know the answer." "Which is it?" "Both. You are both brave and foolish, and that is exactly what my daughter needed." She leaned forward, her sharp eyes studying him. "Has been alone her entire life. Not physically alone, but emotionally. Everyone feared her. Everyone kept their distance. Even I, her own mother, could not fully connect with her. The curse of our bloodline stood between us." "She is not cursed," Ho said. "She is powerful. There is a difference." Smiled slightly. "You see her clearly. That is rare. Most people see only the danger. You see the person beneath." "I try." That is why I am trusting you." The Empress's expression became serious. "When I die, will rule the Dominion, but she cannot rule alone. She will need a partner who can support her, advise her, stand beside her in difficult times. That partner will be you." Ho felt the weight of her words. "I am not qualified for this. I am an engineer, not a ruler." "Rulers are not born qualified, they learn, and you have already shown that you can learn quickly." She placed her hand on his. Her skin was warm with bioenergy just like's. "I do not have many years left, maybe 20, maybe 30, but before I die I want to know that my daughter will not be alone. Can you promise me that?" Ho thought about the question. It was not a small thing she was asking. She was asking him to commit his entire life to this empire, this family, this role. But he had already made that commitment when he stepped forward in the Great Hall. Everything since then had just been confirmation. "I promise," he said. "I will stand beside for as long as I live. I will support her, advise her, and protect her, and I will never leave her alone." Nodded slowly. "Then welcome to the family, Ho. May the stars guide your path." In the weeks before the wedding, Ho and spent every possible moment together. They walked through gardens and talked about their hopes for the future. They studied languages and customs. They practiced formal dances that would be required at the ceremony. And they fell deeper in love. It was strange, Ho thought, how love could grow from such unusual circumstances. He had not volunteered for the trial because he loved. He had volunteered because it was the right thing to do. But somewhere along the way, the right thing had become something more. "I used to dream about this," told him one evening. They were sitting on a balcony overlooking the station, watching ships come and go. "When I was young, before I understood what my power meant, I dreamed about having a partner, someone to share my life with. And now the dream is real, and it is better than I imagined." She turned to face him. "You are not what I expected. I expected a warrior, someone strong and fierce. Instead, I got an engineer who tells bad jokes and cannot dance properly." Ho laughed. "I am getting better at dancing." "You are still terrible," but she was smiling, "and I would not change anything about you." They kissed under the starlight. The bioenergy hummed between them, connecting them in ways that went beyond words. The wedding day arrived. The grand temple was transformed. Flowers from 100 worlds decorated every surface. Music played from hidden speakers, melodies that had not been heard in centuries. 10,000 guests filled the gallery seats, representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Ho stood at the altar in formal robes. They were white and gold, decorated with symbols of the royal house. He felt like someone playing dress-up. But when he looked out at the crowd, when he saw crying happy tears in the front row, when he saw Captain Park standing proudly with the crew of he knew this was real. This was his life now. The music changed. Everyone turned to watch the entrance. Appeared. She wore a gown of pure light. That was the only way to describe it. The fabric seemed to be woven from starlight itself, shimmering and flowing around her like a living thing. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style decorated with crystals. Her golden lines glowed brighter than ever. She was the most beautiful thing Ho had ever seen. She walked down the aisle slowly, her eyes fixed on him. The crowd was silent. Even the representatives from hostile species watched with awe. When she reached the altar, she took his hands. The bioenergy sparked between them, visible to everyone. The high priest began the ceremony. He spoke words in ancient words that had been spoken at royal weddings for 10,000 years. Ho did not understand most of them, but he understood what they meant. He was promising to spend his life with this woman, to stand beside her through good times and bad, to be her partner, her support, her love. It was the easiest promise he had ever made. When the ceremony ended, they sealed their bond with a final exchange of energy. Light flowed between them, visible to everyone in the temple. For a moment, They were surrounded by a golden glow that seemed to combine their essences into one. "You are now bonded," the high priest announced. "May your union bring strength to the Dominion and joy to your lives." The crowd erupted in cheers. Music filled the temple. Ho looked at his wife and saw tears of happiness in her violet eyes. "We did it," she said. "We did," he agreed, "though I am not sure what comes next." She laughed. "Neither am I, but we will figure it out together." The celebration lasted for 3 days. There were feasts and dances and ceremonies. Politicians made speeches. Ambassadors offered gifts. The galaxy watched and wondered what this new union would mean for the future. On the final night, Ho and stood together on a private balcony, away from the crowds. Below them, the station sparkled with lights. Above them, the stars stretched out toward infinity. "When you stepped forward in the Great Hall," said, "did you ever imagine this?" "No," Ho admitted. "I did not imagine anything. I just knew that someone had to answer your mother's question. I did not think about what would come after. And now that you know." He pulled her close. "Now I am glad I did not think about it. If I had known everything that would happen, I might have been too scared to take that first step." "But you would have taken it anyway." "Probably. Humans are stubborn like that." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I am grateful for human stubbornness." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the small blue planet where Ho had been born. Somewhere out there were the human colonies, struggling to find their place in a galaxy full of older, stronger species. Maybe, Ho thought, his story would help them. Maybe seeing a human succeed where others had failed would give them courage. Maybe the galaxy would learn to respect humanity not for their strength or intelligence, but for their determination. Their refusal to give up. Their willingness to step forward when everyone else stepped back. That was the human way. It always had been. And now, standing beside the woman he loved, looking out at the infinite possibilities of the universe, Ho knew that it always would be. "Are you ready for the future?" asked. He smiled. "I am ready to try." And that, as his grandmother had always said, was all anyone could ask.